of this date on the calendar, that was also like this year. We go straight from Shabbos into Rosh Chodesh Kislev. Shabbos is Shabbos Mevorchim, and then we have right after Shabbos Mevorchim we have Rosh Chodesh Kislev. So earlier the Rebbe spoke about the specialness about a month of Kislev in general. Now he's going to speak about what we just now said, going straight from Shabbos Mevorchim into Rosh Chodesh Kislev, like we'll be doing this year. So we're going to start from Tes, after the 3 stars, second paragraph on the page. What we said earlier about the special thing and the unique matter of the month of Kislev, that is blessed from this Shabbos. This is the Shabbos Mevorchim. The idea that the Rebbe explained is applicable of Shabbos Mevorchim of the month of Kislev every year, because he was just talking about the general idea of the month of Kislev, and therefore the specialness of the Shabbos that benches the month of Kislev. In addition to what the Rebbe spoke earlier in the Farbrengen, there is also a lesson from the manner of how the Shabbos of blessing, the month of Kislev, comes out on the calendar. There are differences every year what date in the calendar will Shabbos Mevorchim come out. Since the establishment of the months is according to Torah, so surely, just like the word Torah is Hayra, the same thing over here, there is a lesson to be learned from the fact that Shabbos Mevorchim comes out immediately before Rosh Chodesh. Hakviyas HaMiyuchedes Shel Shabbos Mevorchim Chodesh Kislev B'Shana Zuhi Be'erev Rosh Chodesh. The special calendar date of the Shabbos that we benched the month of Kislev in this year is in the day before Rosh Chodesh. Kach, it expresses itself Shabbos Mevorchim Nechnasim Rosh Chodesh Miyad. Immediately from the Shabbos that we bench the new month, we right away enter into Rosh Chodesh. L'loi hefsek b'ntayim, without any type of separation between Shabbos Mevorchim and having Rosh Chodesh come out a day, 2, 5 days later, whatever. But roiv ha'pa'amim, in the majority of times, hakviyas he, the way how it comes out on the calendar is, in such a manner, between Shabbos Mevorchim and Rosh Chodesh, yesh hefsek shel chama yamim. There's a separation of a few days. Sheba'emtzausam, via those few days, channeled through those few days, nimshachas habracha shel Shabbos Mevorchim, the bracha of Shabbos Mevorchim comes and passes through those days, until it reaches Rosh Chodesh. So let's say if Rosh Chodesh is on a Wednesday, so the bracha of Shabbos Mevorchim has to pass through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, till it reaches Wednesday, that the bracha hits on the day of Rosh Chodesh. Avol kivun sham shacha zui b'derech ma'avir. Though the way it's but since it's coming through in a way that's just passing through, skip the parentheses, the bracha of Shabbos Mevorchim is concealed within those days. The days between Shabbos Mevorchim and where Rosh Chodesh falls are not seen to be anything filled with any particular bracha. It doesn't come down in a way that's fully enclosed and fully revealed. There is nothing in the days in between Shabbos Mevorchim and Rosh Chodesh to indicate anything about the bracha of the upcoming month. Even more so, it's actually connected with the previous month. They're part of the previous month. So really, anything having to do with the bracha that we did on Shabbos for the coming month is not recognizable in those days in between. As opposed to the way it is this time, This is the advantage of Shabbos when we bench the month of Kislev in this year. She'ein hefsek ben Shabbos mevarchim l'Rosh Chodesh, that there's no separation at all. We go directly from Shabbos mevarchim into Rosh Chodesh. Not only is there no separation, but the influence of Rosh Chodesh he's going to explain now, is felt on Shabbos as well. V'ad kedei kach, to such a degree, she'b'Shabbos mevarchim atzmoi la'achrat zois hayoim, on Shabbos mevarchim itself, after midday, yeshna kvar ha'pu'ula d'Rosh Chodesh. There's also the influence and effect of Rosh Chodesh. Shalachein ein oimrim tzidkos chatzedek b'mincha Shabbos. Shabbos afternoon in Mincha, before Aleinu, there is 3 psukim that are called Tzidkos Chatzedek. They began with the word Tzidkos Chatzedek, and that hints at the fact that 3 great tzaddikim, Yosef, Moshe, and David, passed away Shabbos afternoon, and it's similar to justifying Hashem's justice and saying that Hashem is a just judge, even though that was the passing of these great tzaddikim. So what does this mean? And when it comes to Shabbos, Erev Rosh Chodesh, like this case, so then we don't say Tzidkos Chatzedek. V'hainu she'inyanim she'nifaldim b'chol Shabbos, Aidei Amiras Tzidkos Chatzedek, that which is accomplished every Shabbos, when we do say Tzidkos Chatzedek, can move on Medivrei HaZohar, like it's brought down from the words of the Zohar, Shegimel Psukim the Tzidkos Chatzedek, Heim Keneged Gimel Tzadikim Yosef Moshe v'David. There's 3 verses. These 3 psukim correspond to the 3 tzadikim, Yosef, Moshe, and David, that passed away Shabbos afternoon. Nif'ali me'atzma mitzad inyan shel Rosh Chodesh. They are occurring on their own because it's Rosh Chodesh. He's soon going to bring an example, just like days of Tachnun, when we don't, or not recitation of Tachnun, and days that we don't recite Tachnun, it's because the day itself accomplishes it. And we know that Rosh Chodesh, Kosher Min HaGeulah, the idea of Rosh Chodesh is connected with the redemption. Because it says about the new moon, we say that the Jewish people will be Oz, then when Moshiach comes, Asidim B'nai Yisrael is Chodesh Kemoisa, the Yidden will become renewed like the moon does every Rosh Chodesh. So Rosh Chodesh has to do with the Geulah of the Yidden. It's symbolic and indicative of what's going to happen to Klal Yisrael when Moshiach comes. And it's also connected with Moshe and David, 2 out of the 3 people for which we say these psukim, V'zau gam inyanim shel Moshe v'David, Goyal Rishon hu Goyal Achron, that there's the first Redeemer, that's Moshe Rabbeinu, the final Redeemer, that's David and his progeny, Moshiach. And Chazal say that the first Redeemer and the final Redeemer are the same and one, and they're connected with each other. But the point what the Rebbe is saying over here is that when Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, when Shabbos comes out right before Rosh Chodesh, and because of that, we don't say Tzidkos Chatzedek in the afternoon, just like on Erev Rosh Chodesh, we don't say in the afternoon, we don't say Tachnun, we don't say supplication prayers. That means that the great accomplishment of Rosh Chodesh is so powerful. The aura of the Geulah, for example, which is one of the concepts of Rosh Chodesh, like he said just now, is so powerful that it accomplishes what in a regular Shabbos is accomplished by saying Tzidkos Chatzedek. It's accomplished automatically, and we don't have to recite it. So he brings an example on the top of the next page concerning days when we do not recite Tachnun, supplication prayers, and davening. Valderech Mashon is bar similar to what's explained in the Rebbe explained this earlier that year. Those days that we do not recite Tachnun in the month of Tishrei, the majority of the month of Tishrei, starting from Yom Kippur and on, or Erev Yom Kippur and on, we don't say Tachnun for the rest of the month. Does that mean that we are lacking whatever the Tachnun Tefillah is supposed to accomplish? Not at all. that which is normally accomplished through the recitation of Tachnun, nif'olim mitzad mailas yomim hanal shebechodesh Tishrei, are affected and occur just because the day itself. These days, since they're a day in the month of Tishrei, the very day itself accomplishes what in an ordinary day of the year we would need to recite Tachnun. And what is Tishrei connected with? It's connected with the idea that you shall rejoice in your Yom Tovim. So in a similar vein, what in the normal Shabbos Tzidkas Chatzedek accomplishes, this Shabbos is accomplished automatically without any need for reciting Tzidkas Chatzedek. So the Rebbe adds another point. So what's it make a difference if we accomplish it through our saying it, or Hashem accomplishes it through the spiritual time? So he says, when something occurs because of the date on the calendar itself, it happens automatically. This is much greater than what's accomplished through the recitation of a person. If a person wants to accomplish what he has to accomplish with reciting those psukim, so you have to at least know the meaning of the words, and ideally the idea of the intentions and the inner meanings and so on. But when you don't have an obligation to recite it, Hashem is doing it, so then it is above and beyond. There was once a story about some great tzaddik that wanted to do a certain mitzvah, and for whatever reason, beyond his control, he couldn't do it. And he was very happy. So his students asked him, why are you so happy? Why are you so excited? So he explained, when I do a mitzvah, so I have all the limitations of a human being, and I may not do it to the utmost or in the most perfect manner. But we know that if a person wants to do a mitzvah and he's not able to do it for reasons beyond his control, so Hashem considers his wanting to do the mitzvah, Hashem considers it as if he did the mitzvah. Therefore, in other words, Hashem is doing the mitzvah for me, the tzaddik said. So now that Hashem is doing the mitzvah for me, it's obviously done in the most perfect manner. So he was very happy that Hashem did the mitzvah on his behalf. In a similar vein that I was saying over here, that in an ordinary Shabbos, whatever we have to accomplish through saying Tzidkas Chatzedek, it might not be in the utmost perfect manner. But in a Shabbos, Erev Rosh Chodesh, where whatever has to be accomplished through Tzidkas Chatzedek, reciting those three psukim, is accomplished automatically, so then it's done in the most perfect manner. So that's one influence that Rosh Chodesh has on Shabbos, to show that it's not just that the immediacy, that immediately from Shabbos you're going to Rosh Chodesh, but Rosh Chodesh already influenced Shabbos, and it influenced it by Mincha. Now the Rebbe is going to say, not just at Mincha time does it influence. It goes back all the way to Shachris time that Rosh Chodesh influences when it's immediately after Shabbos. We say them as even more so, third paragraph from the top. Even before we recited Birchas HaChodesh, when we're reading the Haftorah of Shabbos Erev Rosh Chodesh, it's a special Haftorah that has to do with the time of the month. That's the day right before Rosh Chodesh. Though in general, the Haftorah that's read after the conclusion of the reading of the Torah, there is some common theme, some topic that is similar to and reminiscent of the Parsha, but there are occasions, such as Erev Rosh Chodesh, when Erev Rosh Chodesh comes out on Shabbos, Doichim haftorah shemin a parsha, the haftorah that would be read because it has to do with the parsha is pushed off. Umaftirim mocher chodesh, and instead, what is the haftorah that we read? We read this, the haftorah that begins with the words mocher chodesh, because that's what the kviyas is. Erev Rosh Chodesh on Shabbos is a day that we're saying tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh. What was the story that the haftorah talks about? Besipur de David v'Yonasan. It tells about the story of David and Yonasan's love for each other. Yonasan being the son of Shaul, and Yonasan was going to warn David if his safety was endangered, and so on. Shezeu gam inyan yichud shimsha v'sira. Chassidus explains that David is likened to the moon, which has to do with Sphiras HaMalchus, and Yonasan has to do with Zeir Ampin, with the Midas, with the Sphiras of the Atzilus, which is likened to the sun, just like the sun shares its light with the moon, and then the moon spreads it out during the nighttime. Same to Yonasan and David had this type of connection. Uba'oifen the Ad David Higdil, and the Haftarah it says until David literally increased. And David increasing, when is Malchus, which has to do with Knesset Yisrael, and David having to do with Moshiach, when is this David Higdil Shekosher Minyan Geulah? So again, the Haftarah has to do with the Geulah, and this is a special Haftarah that it's all because the influence that comes about because Rosh Chodesh is on the day following Shabbos. So we see such powerful things having already to do with the Geulah. The Tzidkas Tzedek is done by Hashem. Now we have to say it, which has to do with Moshe, Geulah Rishon, and David, Geulah Achron. The Haftarah has to do with David increasing, which is the level of the Geulah, and so on. And what is the advantage of it coming directly? So he says in Yud, the advantage in such a calendar setup is in this way that says, blessed is he that says and does. In other words, by human beings, the way it works is you could say something, and from the saying till the doing, there can often be some type of delay, and sometimes even after saying, the doing doesn't come out. And I'm not talking about someone that was lying, it just, things didn't work out. But by Hashem, we say about Hashem in davening, we say, Baruch Omer V'Oiseh. The blessed is one that said and did. Where do we find this exemplified or expressed? In Shabbos Mevarchim, going into Rosh Chodesh. That immediately from the saying comes the doing. B'chol Shabbos shebay mevarchim leYisrael zachodesh b'mayim dasor Yisrael u'b'makim kadosh. Every Shabbos that Yidden bench the month in the presence of 10 Yidden and in a holy place. Shagam b'zman hagolus nikra migdash ma'at. The holy place of the shul is called a minor migdash. But even though it's a time of exile, it's a sure thing. Since Yidden made this bracha, Hashem fulfills that bracha. But there's a greater advantage when the drawing down of the bracha is done with alacrity. Immediately after we say, meaning Amiras HaBracha shepoilim bnei Yisrael b'koyches HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Yidden are saying this bracha and affecting this bracha by the power given to them by Hashem. Hashem is the one that gives the Yidden the power to bench the months. As the famous Hayov Yom that says that on the month of Tishrei, Hashem benches the month, we don't bench the month, and that empowers us to be able to bench the month the rest of the year. So we are empowered by Hashem to bench the month, and as soon as we do so, immediately it's followed by Rosh Chodesh. Nimshach HaOseh comes out the actual action of Hashem making Rosh Chodesh. So here is a very interesting lesson that it brings about. Vayrom is the lesson in this in our service of Hashem. Yehudi machlit lasses davar toiv, when a Yid decides to do something good, be'echad hakavna, now one of the above mentioned lines that he spoke about earlier in the Farbrengen, ein loy lasses cheshbonis v'litchos ois l'mocher. A person should not make all types of calculations and push it off for tomorrow. It's demanded from him speed, alacrity, quickness. Lasses is taken from miyad to do this immediately. Like the Alter Rebbe explains in the Geras HaKodesh, the great advantage and the specialness of doing things in alacrity, quickly, not delaying. And we find that this was the great schus of Avram, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. Here he's going to quote the Alter Rebbe from that Geras HaKodesh. Avram Avinu al Vashalom's alacrity and speed in getting up. It says, Vayashkim Avram Aboiker. Avram got up early in the morning to bring Yitzchak to the Akedah. That merit is something that always stands for us forever and ever, and it's always bringing down merit upon his children. Why do you say it's his alacrity? Maybe it's the fact that he was willing to sacrifice his only son. So he says, because the actual Akedah is not considered such a great test in comparison to the quality of Avram Avinu. First of all, it's not a great test because in comparison to Avram should sacrifice his son. This is Avram we're talking about. And in addition to that, this is a case where Hashem spoke to him explicitly and told him to do so. And we find number 3, Vakama Kedoshim. There are many those that were holy people, meaning people that give up their lives for the sanctification of Hashem's name, are called Kedoshim. That they gave up their lives to sanctify Hashem's name, though Hashem did not speak to them. So, being that that's the case, why would we make such a big deal about the Akedah, and why is the schus of the Akedah something so long-standing? So it's not the Akedah itself. It's not the self-sacrifice itself. That, there's many Eden throughout the generations that did that. That's not so special for Avram. Rather, Raksha Avram Avinu al Vashalom also says, Bezrizus nifla. Avram Avinu did this with great speed. Lahare simchose v'cheftzoi l'males retzoin koine, to show his joy and his desire to fulfill the will of his maker, v'las nachas roch liyotzrein, to make a pleasing spirit for his creator. That joy that Avram displayed, that speed that Avram displayed, that is the great merit that he had. And the Rebbe concludes or continues, similar to this by every single Yid, in such a manner that's an inheritance from our forefathers. When he does something with alacrity, this shows on the Jews' joy in fulfilling the command of Hashem and his desire. This means even though that you could have room to say that the reason why he was so rushed is because he was so overwhelmed by it, so he just did it and without thinking. Or even if he was already settled, all the zrizus, all the speed and alacrity indicates that he's not lazy. Who says that this is his desire, this is his will? For this, Alter Rebbe says that zrizus, alacrity, speed indicates the Avram Avinu, and so to by every Yid, his joy and his desire to do that particular thing. The explanation behind this is, how do I know that's because of the joy? Maybe it's for a different reason, like we said before. Maybe he's just not a lazy guy. He doesn't sit around. He got a job to do. He does it, but not he's excited about it. So the explanation is according to what is known the ruling of the Rambam. Internally, every single Jew wants to fulfill Torah mitzvahs, but sometimes he's not aware of it, or he doesn't show it externally, and he needs to be externally coerced to do it. But it's not considered coercion because it's really revealing what his true will is. The same thing over here. When a person fulfills a mitzvah with speed and alacrity, when he overcomes laziness, so then his true will becomes revealed. His joy that he has in the mitzvah, his desire, this is an entire delight. And here we get back to the topic of Geulah. Through the fact that the avoid of a person is with alacrity. We affect an idea of speed and alacrity concerning the redemption. That's connected with the general idea of Rosh Chodesh. Kanal Siftes, like we said earlier in Siftes, that the Geulah has to do with Rosh Chodesh because the Rosh Chodesh, the moon is renewed, and that is indicative of how the Yidden, the Jewish people, will be renewed when Moshiach comes. In addition to all of this, the Geulah is also connected with the month that we are benching. Kislev, it has a special connection with the month of Kislev. About Lakas Neres Chanukah, that its conclusion is in the kindling of the Chanukah lights. That's the conclusion of the month of Kislev. It begins in the last 5-6 days of the month. We know that the Chanukah candles are connected with the Neiros of the Beis HaMikdash, but they have something more than the Neiros of the Beis HaMikdash. The Neiros of the Beis HaMikdash are something that will that ceased with the destruction. But as opposed to Neiros Chanukah, but the Neiros of Chanukah are never ceasing, like the Ramban writes. What does that indicate? That indicates that the candles of Chanukah, as opposed to the candles of the Beis HaMikdash, that the Chanukah candles are something that's beyond boundary and limitation. And their number is 8, and the number 8 also shows on Moshiach. That's the uniqueness of Moshiach, the number 8. Shows when Moshiach comes, the stringed instrument that they used in the Beis HaMikdash will have 8 strands instead of 7, the way it is now. Prior to the Yom Tov of Chanukah, which comes at the conclusion of the month, we have a Geulah Shel Rabbeinu Hazaken b'Yizras Kislev Achag Asher Pada V'Shalom Nafsheinu B'Chol. We have the redemption of the Alter Rebbe on the 19th of Kislev, which comes before Chanukah, which is on the 25th of Kislev, the Yom Tov that in peace He redeemed our soul. Like the entire lengthy explanation of the matter the Rebbe Rashab explained over there. And following the redemption of the Alter Rebbe, the redemption of the Mittler Rebbe in the 10th of Kislev. So we first have the 25th of Kislev Chanukah, historically, but prior on the calendar, we have the next historical event, which is Yutas Kislev, the Geulah of the Alter Rebbe, and prior to that on the calendar, we have the third, in order of historical events, the Geulah of the Mittler Rebbe on the 10th of Kislev. And because of all of these Geulahs and all these redemptions, so now, so much Geulah, so much things that have to do with redemption and Mashiach and so on, now the entire month of Kislev is called Chodesh HaGeulah. The general idea behind this is every single person needs to influence themselves to leave their boundaries. Just like the whole idea of the Neiros Chanukah that never cease, It shows on going out of boundaries. And to influence others as well to go out of their boundaries. That's an individual redemption. When I am releasing myself from my boundaries, I'm leaving my boundaries, I am having a specific, an individual redemption. Geulah from the individual redemption of every single Yid. We come to the general Geulah of all Yidden. Beginning from the idea that I will lead you upright, zekufa, with an upright stature. Still already in the final days of exile, till the actual redemption with the Geulah, in actuality, from